Happy New Year to all of you listening.
Hey. Yeah, let's see how you do under pressure. Oh, yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on.
Hey, and welcome to the very last episode of the NBI Season 1. I just hope that you had a massive good celebration ringing in 2025 because we had a blast in Norway with a massive party with friends and family. But enough about that. I always have that kind of buzz into a new year. I come with a lot of energy, excitement, targets, goals, but also I feel reloaded in many ways because you've had weeks of just settling in the darkness, especially if you live in the Nordics or Norway in particular. There is so much darkness that you really just have to sleep and rest. But let's get to the topic here. You're listening to the final episode of the NBI Season 1, and we made it all the way up to 23 episodes. Who would have believed that in the beginning of the year? And then, as I told you some episodes ago, I have pulled all my strings as a husband to bring on the show exclusively for you a deep dive interview with my wife, partner, and co-founder in many businesses, Ann Sylvia. And actually, I'm thrilled for the conversation because it's in many ways gonna manifest the new style of NBI Season 2. It is gonna be a lot more conversation-based. It's gonna be casual. It's gonna be day-to-day. And one of our major goals is to bring you second weekly episodes on fixed days so that you always know when you get the next episode and when you can listen to it, so that you also can embed it into your daily life. And I can say as much as, unfortunately, Ann Sylvia is not the promised co-host, but the upcoming co-host is almost as good. Anyway, this conversation with Ann Sylvia is almost like a summation itself of our year. And hopefully, this can become kind of a tradition in the NBI to summarize the season with a guest like Ann Sylvia. Before we jump into the episode, I just want to give you a quick run through of the topics we covered. We talked about our winter times here in Norway. We talked about how we closed off a quite impressive year despite having a lot of tough challenges. We also talked in detail about our container building project and all the processes we have to do to prepare our move for North Norway. But more importantly, we dive into Ann Sylvia's past digital depression, how she felt the need to distance herself from work, why she has been going so much undercover, and what's on her agenda and plans for 2025 and beyond. Ultimately, we take the time to run you through our 10-year vision plan. And this is a document that we've been talking a lot about in our podcast episodes. We always at all times have a 10-year visionary plan that we from time to time revise together. And today we're gonna give you a direct run through what that plan includes as of now. Ultimately, we also come with a little teaser update for 2025 that just landed on my plate recently. We're not gonna spoil the milk right now, so you gotta listen to the end of the episode for that. And with that, I just want to remind you that the products and concepts we feature in this podcast by no means have paid for any placement, and the guests are handpicked by the Nomadic Business Insight team. We may or may not have personal investments in the product and concepts we feature, and the podcast is not to be seen as any direct investment advice. The show is for entertainment purpose only, and with that, let's get Christmas vibe back. I'm just kidding. We're in the new year, 2025. No Christmas vibes. We're not going to talk about Christmas, but let's welcome my dear partner and wife, Ann Sylvia, to the show.
You are listening to LD Podcast. Would you like to publish with us? Tell us your story at www.ld.studio/podcasts. Edited and published by LD Studio.
You're such a perfectionist on how you set up your podcast, but I'm loving it.
Yes, I don't know why, but kind of want to put out something with perfection, right?
That's
And when the setup is not good and you're supposed to sit there for 1 hour, that feels horrible. It's like having a thorn inside your heart.
I think for our next place, we need to set up a permanent fixed podcast place for you.
And when will we ever have a fixed place?
Fair enough.
Yeah, for you guys tuning in here today, we are sitting at the library in actually both of our hometown in a weird way. You never actually, you kind of don't even remember living here, do you?
No, I moved when I was 4 and you moved to Lesnes, this hometown, when you were 4.
And they just recently built this super modern, beautiful library, which we have taken a chance to use quite a bit during Christmas.
Yeah, it's been really nice to sit here, get some work done, and then we're lucky to have your parents here who are taking care of our baby.
Sakira's in bed tonight, and we have the time to sit down with you guys here and record this. What is the last episode of NBI season 1? I told in the intro that I've been pulling all my husband's strings to get you to audition here tonight.
Yes, you've been pestering me for weeks.
It's not even weeks. I think I started asking you literally in September.
But I feel I have to explain why I've been a bit reluctant on being here on the podcast, because I feel like this is your thing and your guy thing. You haven't had any female guests, have you?
2.
Okay, then your thing, not your guy thing, just your thing.
Well, I can make it a guy thing. I visit here only with man to man. Now that I would feel it kind of like a 1990s conversation. My podcast is only for my maid, the boys in the hoop. No, explain us why you've been reluctant. So that's the reason?
Yeah, I feel that we have so many projects going on where we're both parts. We have nomadic parents. We
own companies together.
Yeah, it's a lot of work together. And I wanted this nomadic business insight to be your thing and your thoughts and your perspective. And that's why I felt like I'm a bit out of place.
Yeah, but you are here as a guest, and I couldn't imagine anyone else than you to conclude this year with. And I know I said the same thing in the Nomadic Parents episode, but sitting together with you in a podcast is some of my favorite time. Getting to hear your cozy voice close to the ear.
We should walk with these kind of headsets all day long.
And talk to each other.
We should set aside time to discuss important matters and then put up this setup because we're always in really good mood.
All right, sounds like a fair date. Non-recorded couple therapy. Or should be recorded?
We'll see. It will be our first date in 2025. But what do you want to tell your listeners a bit about how the last year has been? Because now we're closing in. It's New Year's coming up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
that's a good place to start this conversation. So 2024, all in all, it's weird to say, but it turned out very much how I imagined it to turn out. And I think it's very hard to imagine a year where you take your toddler baby with 6 months across the globe, take her to South America to live in the jungle and villas there and meet other out of this world families. And then come back, and the first thing you think of is to start a Norwegian TV series and go out in the mountains and hike for months, which we did too. And then we had a very nice, what I would like to call moon landing at home in our apartment to kind of say goodbye to Olsen. Maybe the only thing that didn't turn out the way that I had imagined it was not moving to North Norway yet.
Thanks for sharing. It sounds like you have a really strong imagination, because the year did not end up how I planned, even though this was all written in our plan. To be honest, I feel like Ecuador was last year, the Golden Key was in the start of the year, and that we've just been stuck here in winter horror land for months.
But haven't you been like that I think it is a nice place for listeners to get to know you on another perspective where they haven't gotten to learn you through the Nomadic Parents or other projects. You've always been a bit time confused,
Yeah.
and not in a negative way necessarily. It's just not one of your main perspectives that you orient yourself at.
Definitely. I don't feel like I'm very good at planning. And actually, when people ask me why I'm enjoying to be with you and why I chose you and why I think we're a good couple, I always tell them because I hate taking decisions and I hate to plan, and you absolutely love it and crush it. But
It's fascinating. Though. We pulled up our 10 years plan, which we'll get back to later in the episode. I think it's very fun for listeners to get an insight on how we work together and live together. But the plan actually said for this year, go half a year somewhere else, live remote. It had a list of countries, Venezuela, Costa Rica, Philippines, and none of them were Ecuador, but I mean, still the same league.
like close, it could have been like any of them.
I mean,
but the reason
Colombians-
why we chose Ecuador was that it's the only country where it's relatively easy to bring a dog.
That's true. That's why we kind of changed from Colombia to Ecuador.
But no disrespect meant, but in my head, it's very similar. For example, like Norway and Sweden, Denmark, it's not very super distinguishable.
I would agree, though, that the northern South American countries can be similar, like Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador. I mean, people living there would disagree. But for someone from Norway, they are fairly similar.
And I guess because we are looking for things as foreigners, which is present in all of the countries. So it doesn't really matter for us which country we go to.
Absolutely. With that, I want to ask you my first icebreaker question here tonight, and that will be, I mean, it's a day before New Year's Eve. We're sitting in the library in our hometown. We're about to close finally, not just season 1 Nomadic Business Insight but the whole chapter, Ålesund, West Norway is closing up. How has this last fall been for you?
I have been through my head and it's just like using this word, disfruting, which you use, but it's not a word. It's Spanish.
Enjoying.
Enjoying being able to be so close to family a lot. And because I know we're going to move away, I try to enjoy it even more, which I'm able to do. But on the other side, I feel like I'm so done with the darkness. It's been raining constantly for 5 weeks. Today is the first day where it's actually proper snow, but it's around 0 degrees, so it will probably be gone in 2 days.
The darkness can truly be tormenting.
Ooh. And I think because we could have chosen to be somewhere else, like I don't have to be here, there's nothing tying us here, makes it extra hard for me to actually stay here.
I get what you're saying. And I think that perspective is something that will be cool to explore a bit further. The perspective of, I mean, most of the people don't have that choice, or at least position themselves to not having the choice to be able to, out of the blue, move to another place.
Yes, exactly. I think that's kind of the essence, I guess, that because we're nomadic business people and can choose to live everywhere, we get kind of critical as to the places we choose. And
Sometimes even overcritical.
yes, like in hindsight, I think a lot of the places we have been, we could have enjoyed much more if we weren't like a bit unhappy with something.
But I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a negative thing. No, I think we only have a certain amount of years on this globe. 100 years in one perspective seems an immense amount of time. But on the other side of the table, if you look at it, you're turning 30 now in January in a couple of weeks.
Do you find that stressful?
No, I don't. I actually enjoy it a lot. I feel very aligned with my own age.
Right? I feel it totally the same. I feel like I'm 30 years old and I have experienced 30 years of stuff.
I tend to hear a lot of people in our age saying that I feel they haven't experienced enough, or they've grown so old and haven't done that kind of stuff which they were wanting to do. We've traveled the world for a dozen of years, and we've been to festivals, we've been high up in mountains, we've been hiking for months and months, we've been surfing, climbing in jungles and deserts, we've been living in cars. I mean,
We made a baby.
we made a baby, we have lived in cities, we have lived in one city, we started studios, we've started a store, we tried starting a restaurant. I mean, how much more are you gonna manage to compress into your 20s?
I feel the same. If I would die tomorrow, I would be happy with what I did with my time.
Yes, but you're not gonna do that.
Hopefully not. People come for me.
At least if not Sakira is shooting you with New Year's right.
I agree. And it really feels that like if we're closing a chapter and now moving into a new one, which is North Norway, and building a container, which we got shipped to Vestnes, where we're at now and they're currently building in.
And how has that been going? I mean, we talked a little bit about it in the most recent Nomadic Parent episode. So if you want to, but we also said there, this is not suited for this episode. So maybe it's suited here today. How has it been going? Has it been as you expected? I mean, it's pretty typical. It's crazy, but it's also like typical Georg and Sylvia. Ask someone in the company, shout out Moritz, go and pick us up on a container. And funny story there, Moritz actually bought a container. And I hope he doesn't mind, but he bought a container and got scammed. And we lost almost 2,000 euros off a container that never showed up. But I mean, you just got to trust people around here.
Happened to me as well.
I mean, we had ordered the same container.
Yeah. Well, I think I romanticized the idea much more. In my head, I was picturing waking up at 8 in the morning, come breakfast until 9, dropping up the kid at kindergarten, going to container, get 7 hours done, and back and make dinner. And that did not happen, obviously. Sakira has been so much sick since she started in kindergarten. It's been very hectic in the darkness, and everything is just deadlines at work, and everything just did not happen as I was picturing. And I think the main reason for it is that I was not imagining myself still working on a computer, which I will come back to. But in my head, I was just thinking, turn on some music in a container, work a bit. But the time I actually do spend in the container, I love it. Today I spent all day in the container and had so much fun just chilling, spacing out sometimes, thinking about solutions, and then getting stuff done.
Today you covered the whole, I mean, we've done all the pipe work and electricity, and then today you covered the bathroom floor with wooden. You isolated under the flooring and also the walls, and you built a bathroom seat.
Yeah.
By the way, if you don't mind, I feel maybe the bathroom seat, the shower seat is too small. A little bit too small. It could have been like slightly bigger. I feel it's
Too late for that.
I feel we should change it, because it is going to be the way that you always feel like, it should have been an inch bigger.
An inch? Like
No,
this one?
an inch is like 12 centimeters. No, sorry. That's not. It's 1.2. So 10 centimeters.
2.5.
Whatever. Like, it should have been around 10 centimeters wider.
We're going to be 3 people in there. And one of us is going to be squatting.
Well, I guess we need to discuss this off topic, off podcast. But yeah, you're saying that you're enjoying it, and I can just underline that has been a beautiful thing to get off the computer. And I think in January we should really focus more time on building more days in a row and just leaving computer work a bit behind for a while. I think that's going to be okay. The companies, all the things are in a place where things are well managed. And I think we should really enjoy the time together on the building place.
This is the problem of being trilingual that we speak several languages, and in my head, some words only fit in a certain language.
Yeah. Mentioning language, what do you think about me starting Arabic now?
I love it, but I wish you would keep the process to yourself, because you're all the time
Elaborate.
running to me and make eye contact. If not, I'm not going to say it. Look what I learned now. Do you want to learn as well? No. Yeah, you have to see.
You're embarrassing me. I'm not like that. I come to you with my deep voice and ask, darling, look at how you write. But it is really motivating, because before I started learning Arabic, it's been a while since I've learned the language. I know that I have a language mind and tongue, but I also know that in general I'm a visual learner and that I pick up things very fast through partly having a photographic memory.
You definitely do.
But so I kind of doubted myself a little bit, being a bit anxious to start, because I know that Arabic is very much more difficult than any Latin language, because you're literally learning a new language tree and a syllabus as well, alphabet. But somehow it works really well. I already see all the different letters and the symbols.
Shout out to Duolingo.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also, yesterday, I opened a YouTube video that just quickly explained the Arabic alphabet and the symbols. And I was planning on tonight or tomorrow, I wanted to write them all out a couple of times just to get them better in. And I know I'm not gonna know them by heart now, maybe in a month's time. But still, looking at the complexity, and when you see Arabic and you've never touched it, you kind of, it's natural to be scared and think that it's gonna take me a year or more.
How do you attack learning a new skill? Do you set aside time in your calendar, or do you just push it in between everything else?
Yeah, that's a cool question. I actually talked with Sundre when we did a feature episode with him in the Nomadic Parents, because he's also digital nomad and have a kid. And I do slotting, so I put up a lot of slots in my calendar for particular things that I will keep on repeating week by week. So I plan to put in a slot for Arabic as well. But then it's a mix, because I love also to abandon my plan. It's also, it's a weird way of self-motivating, because by heart I'm a rebel. Star Wars link there. So by heart I'm a rebel, and not part of the Empire over here.
Almost it.
Yes, you truly are, Sith. But so for me, being able to abandon my plan actually motivates me a lot. And that's one of the part of having systemized slots for everything. Because let's say you have a slot that goes general team management, and that slot comes every Tuesday and every Thursday. You know that if you abandon that slot today, you have a new slot for that on Thursday. So I keep focusing on all the tasks that I had to focus on as a CEO and leader. But yeah, to finalize your question, I plan very organized in my calendar, but I love abandoning my plan.
For me, that's so confusing.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm definitely not like that. I was born and raised on the principles of, if you say something, you gotta do it, you gotta show up. And if I tell you the day before, tomorrow I'm gonna wake up at 8 and I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm at the gym at 8.
That's right. And some of our conflicts are rooted in that.
Definitely.
That you can get really annoyed if we had a plan and I say, well, is a plan always a plan? But anyway, let's move a bit from...
Where do you get feedback for this podcast? I want to hear what your listeners think.
I'll send you some of the comments so you can read through them. But yeah, that's it. Let us know what you think, guys. Let us know if you are more of a planner or if you prefer doing things on impulse. And with that, if you are okay, I feel like we could move a bit on.
Yeah.
And closing up like the past, I just want to hear a bit about you. I mean, we spoke about the container, we spoke about what we've done throughout the year, but also your full What have you been spending your time with? We know that you worked a lot on a completely new homepage for LD Studio. Am I maybe saying too much now?
I have indeed been working on a new web page, and it's coming together really nicely. And this is a project I've been super looking forward to getting started on, because it's been in the cards quite some time that it should have been done, it should be done. And I'm really enjoying the process. But it's a love-hate relationship, because I feel like I have all the creative freedom and expertise to get it done. But then again, it's the hardest client to satisfy, because the person on the other side is very picky.
Yeah, but it is definitely necessary, because we as a company have been moving so far stray from only delivering visual content. We've become way more of a corporate communication partner on a much wider span, and I think it's natural. We are moving into our 30s. Our mother company, our baby company is also moving into its 30s.
Yeah, and our portfolio has really changed in our core expertise, and
not necessarily changed, but expanded so much that what we visualized ourselves with in 2024 and past does absolutely not stand what we're actually performing.
I mean, change more in a way on how we productified it, I guess. Or how would you explain it?
I mean, Axel spoke a lot about it already, and I don't think we have to elaborate. If people want to know, they can go back a couple of episodes in the NBI. And also I plan...
in some weeks, hopefully go on a new website.
Yeah, absolutely. January, February. I mean, I've been promoting your merch page for a while, and there's some really good looking merch coming up there.
You're wearing some of it.
Yeah, I'm wear the whole I wear the full collection. And we're also hopefully
You
starting...
already lost some of your t-shirts to friends.
Lost. We're also having another collaboration merch coming out hopefully in January and February with both partnering clients and other people external from the company or outside of the company. But cool, thanks for sharing then. So you've been a lot in your own headspace, and that's kind of, I feel, also part why you've been a bit reluctant of doing the episode, because you really told yourself, I want to fall away from the commercial projects. I don't even know if the future for me is in the company for now. I want to reorient myself, which I think is a beautiful thing to do at such a young age. Most people talk about the process like that when they turn 40 or 50.
Yeah.
What inspired you to?
Well, it's been more than a decade now with this nomadic lifestyle and computer work, and it's starting to take its toll both on my body, but also I'm an impatient person, so I feel I need a bit of change, and that I really master the skills of what I'm doing, like head of design and web pages, branding, strategy, and everything. I don't feel like there's much more I can learn. And now it's starting to get a bit repetitive, and it's time for a small change. And I recently became a mom, and I feel like my priorities have just shifted so much.
Is this almost getting a trend in the world of digital people, that they come to a point very early in their life where they realize the most their need for not sitting in front of a computer? I feel I've seen quite a few digital nomadic people going over to handy jobs for a while.
Yeah.
And not that you've entered any other jobs, but you've just kind of prioritized your time for building, and you want to keep on doing that.
I'm not sure, but there's definitely a big trend of, for example, trad moms or trad wives, where people try to do things much slower, make bread at home, cheese and stuff like that, and definitely taking control again over a slow lifestyle. And I think that inspires a lot of people. Being a digital nomad is also very often a very slow lifestyle. I feel people who do this are often often visiting cafes, surfers, climbers, people that spend a lot of time in nature. So it's natural for these kind of people to see change and realize that sitting 10 hours in front of a screen every day might not be the best thing to do.
I mean, I love creating behind the screen, and I love building teams behind the screen. Something I came to think about now that you were speaking is looking back at our dream of creating physical work environments, which we did. I think we succeeded pretty well. We had 2 beautiful offices with a lot of beautiful people, and so many physical memories that I'm fond at looking back to. I still struggle to see if I was entirely happy. For me, it always was involved with a lot of stress too, because
of the physical spaces?
Yes, because of the physical responsibility of those spaces, but mostly because I feel the most happy when I'm not retained by anyone or anything. And when every day, even though I have a very slotted plan for what I should do, that is not physically connected to where I have to be to do it. It's just, these are things that I'm metaphysically working on. Doesn't matter if I'm sitting like on a beach, or if I'm sitting in the library, or if I'm in the basement of my parents, or if I'm on an airport. Looking back at those last 5 to 6 years, building those companies in Norway, it feels like breaking free from chains.
I agree. And I think one of the key factors in making this mental change, which was very positive for us, was always in the cards for us to do, because we tried so many times to distance ourselves from the company. And at the end of the day, our goal was always to not be physically present at any of our offices.
Yeah.
And then we kind of set internal deadline for ourselves that in 5 years, if this doesn't work, we're not going to do it.
That's work.
Yeah. And that manifested itself in not having any physical spaces.
Yeah. And it's also reoriented ourselves a lot, or at least for me, because I mean, you have been quite a lot. You've almost been on a sabbatic year the last 2 years of not taking much part, and it's also very ungiven if you're gonna come back and involve yourself. But at least for me, it's been such a magical and very exciting journey to transition a company and that portfolio, and also the way you're executing on the product and delivery from a physical workspace that has a lot of remote qualities, because we were working between different offices, pretty much all online, but then transitioning that physical environment into a metaphysical environment, and also sourcing new people to join that team that actually more want an online community and a physical community. So that's been a very exciting journey. But I think we're digging a bit down to that deep down here. I mean, we're in Christmas vibe, New Year. I mean, everyone listening in here is just landing in 2025 and is ready and excited to start a new year. They don't want to hear about the past anymore. Yeah, let's move into the future.
So what does the future hold for us? We just talked about our plan.
Yeah, our plan. I think we have talked about it one time before.
I think so too.
We have
10-year plan.
kind of released it. It's a 10-year plan, but we call it the living bucket list. So it's not a bucket list, it's a living bucket list. Where to live and what to do. But it's a quite simple document. We can share some screenshots in the future, but it's not very comprehensive or complex. It just has every year, 10 years ahead. Behind the years, there is a bracket saying how old Sakira is by then. So that's easy to follow along. And under the year, it has 3 to 5 bullet points about where we're going to be in the world or what we're going to do.
And for the coming years, there are a lot of projects in the plans. which I think is kind of a red thread. For example, for this year, next year, and 2026, we're going to be working a lot with Gulmökkel.
I'm just kind of name dropped The Golden Key as a TV series documentary where we're hiking through the mountains. And I also shared 2 episodes that are recorded in the mountains. So I think people listening in here have a quite extensive relationship to the Golden Key. But if you want to know more, I think it's episode 9 and 10 of the season 1. You can go back, and there's also a Nomadic Parent episode that we recorded in the mountains. But quickly summarize, it's us going 100 cabins in the Norwegian mountains with our daughter and turning it into a TV series that focuses on parenthood, mental health.
Yeah. And it's been super fun, and I'm very excited for 2025 to be very deep diving into that project.
It's gonna open the film world in a whole new perspective for us and give us a lot of valuable connections.
And to be honest, I kind of missed seeing you work with film projects, because the last couple of years has been a lot of innovation projects, strategy things, and less about creating. And it's really fun to see that fire reigniting you.
Yeah. I mean, I've had an executive producer role in a lot of films throughout the last years, but I haven't touched them so much on writing level. More overwatched other people doing it, which I think is a natural step of me being very tired of commercial film productions and seeing myself too junior, too young to come with a big first film project. But now we're here. Now we're old. Yeah, not old, but I'm old enough. I'm allowed onto the big stage. Old.
You upgraded from the kids' table.
Absolutely. I'm gonna dine with the fancy guys.
Well, I have the plan in my hands. You're not able to see it, but I can see it. And
but I know what's happening. 2025. We're going out of Norway.
Yeah.
2026, we're moving into our van in Spain, and we're gonna spend some time traveling around in Spain and Portugal, surfing, just like really recapping the massive film project we've done by then.
Yeah.
And then by fall times, we'll head over to Morocco and West Africa and explore that side of the world, which we kind of haven't been to. And then New Year 2026, 2027, we talked about that we want to go to Algeria and take a ferry back to Italy to spend spring in Napoli and maybe, rent an apartment, enjoy city life in Italy somewhere. And then during the fall, you wanted to go to Asia, but I said that I really want to go to the Middle East. That's a bit in the unclear yet, but we have written fall 2026, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Middle East.
Yes.
For now. Do you want me to continue? I can go the whole...
No, it's okay. Because we normally do these plans, and they 70% of the time end up as we write it, but then the 30% of the other times it doesn't, and then people are like, but you said you were gonna go there.
But it's important to highlight this. This is a fun fact about this system, because a lot of people ask us, they find it very crazy that we have this. They find it both amazing but also scary, because I think very few people dare to push themselves to think that far ahead. And also it can be depressing if you're just like, okay, 10 years ahead, I'm still sitting in the same house, same job.
And it's a bucket list. And this idea did start with us just writing all the countries we would want to live in at one point in our life. And then we thought, okay, let's systemize it. When can this happen?
That's right. Because as I said, 100 years in that way isn't a long time after all. There is a lot more than 100 countries, and we don't want to just drop into the countries and fly out again. We prefer living there half a year or a year.
But in essence, we're going to go a lot of places, and then in 2028, 2029, be in America.
Yeah, quickly summarized, going to the Middle East, Philippines, and Asia. You want to live there for a while, and then South America.
Yeah.
But
then... I'm just going to skim through it because this episode is going to turn out so long.
Right, dude.
And the most important thing is that we want to be back in Norway when Sakura starts in school.
Yeah. And you can follow that whole journey in the Nomadic Parents, 100%. We're going to be podcasting a lot about it, but you might ask yourself, why do they have to go to these places and these places? And there's some things that we haven't written down. Like we've always said, we really would like to have a more professional life in Japan at some point. That could be when our kids are older. And we're
actually talked about moving to a bigger city like Florida, California, LA, that type of thing.
And I think those kind of things are going to happen when our kids are in middle school and secondary school age. Those are nice times to do that kind of thing and do it even longer, more than half a year. Do it 2 years, 3 years, because it's all about establishing relationships and friendships.
And now that we're a family, we don't want to just move around, jump around, so that our kids never get any friends.
That is true. So North Norway is still up there. We're going to have it as our base for now, which we can always return back to if need be. But our next 10 years, or at least 6-7 years, look like a lot outside of Norway. 2025 will be our last year in Norway, even though we're spending most of the year kind of on the road in the mountains here. I'm looking forward to that, to one last time truly enjoy the best of Norway.
That's good. Because I was a bit afraid that you were sick of snow and didn't want to ski anything and just hated Norway.
No. Man, just to sum up this podcast episode and I mean bring it into the end here, I think we are getting into the end.
Can I just say one more thing about the plan, which I think is super important to manifest?
I'm not done with the plan though. So, but go ahead. You first.
The maybe most important thing that's going to happen before 2030 is that we really want to get a house in Spain.
I think we're going to buy the property in around the 2033, 34. We're probably going to go there and build it. Yeah, because the reason I say so is that I feel like we have changed the last months, saying that until our kids are in school, we don't want to embark on any massive new building project, just because this is a time where we have to roll around and play. So I actually think we'll wait. But anyway, yeah, we should definitely manifest getting that property we always dreamt about in North Spain. The last thing I want to mention about the plan is one of the most, and this brings us back to the film journey, which I also wanna talk a bit more about in the end here. You said that you really like seeing me going back in the film and directing world. I feel it's never going to be my main drive. Having corporate positions in quick developing companies, I think, is always going to be my main place to be. But I think writing films and directing films is always going to be a side journey for me. And there is a massive side journey project apart from the Golden Key. And just to mention, it also got invited to record very interesting mountaineering documentary in Tajikistan. Kanjari, the American mountaineering group wants to do an expedition there and a research program, and they've invited me to shoot it. That will probably happen in 2025. So there is this
perfect guy for that.
Yeah, there is a lot of things happening in the documentary world and film world where people need someone that can film but also manage and has a team to come. So if you have any ideas, guys, or know somebody, you can always reach out. I'm always intrigued to travel. But rounding off that film journey, there is a way bigger film ahead of us than the Golden Key. It's kind of ahead of me. It's kind of like a life journey project. And I'm actually not going to say anything about it, just give you the name so you can hold on to it and continue to remember that I mentioned this to you in 2024. And maybe you're going to see this film in 10 years or more. And it's going to be called The Man That Can, inspired by a German poet at our age, which we met many years back, who wrote a very short poem during his time at university that was called Der Mann, das alles tanken kann. And that's going to be a massive, massive film tour. I can promise you that if we succeed making that film how we want to make it, it is going to be
epic.
It's going to be up there on Cannes, potentially Oscar Well, we're talking big hits, but who knows? Who knows? It's a dream.
I'm really excited about that dream.
But that film is gonna, just to mention, that film is gonna follow a lot of our 10 years plan. Not that we are starring in it, but our travels have a lot to do with the recordings of that film. But yeah, that was the introduction to our 10-year plan. It's not set in stone. It has always changed and will always change. That's one of the beautiful things of it. What do you think? I was kind of starting on that saying, I think most people are afraid of doing this long-term planning. But that's maybe some of the beauty as well of it, that you dare to change.
At the beginning, I was a bit worried about not sticking to the plan because obviously, as I said, I love my plans. But I realized that as long as you go with the flow and do what feels right, you're always going to be a place where you're happy. And I guess at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. And just because we wrote that we want to stay a place, and then if we end up going there and absolutely don't like it, I don't want to stay there just because it's in a plan. Or if you miss out on opportunities, for example, going to
Kanjari.
Tajikistan,
Tajikistan.
because it's not part of our plan, you know.
Yeah.
Stay water, be liquid.
Maybe
Oh my god, I sound like a yoga hippie now.
maybe the most important thing of that plan is that it is not overcomplicated. It only holds 2 or 3 major aspects of a year. And just because you decide that you want to be in the Philippines for half a year, that does not mean that you can't go on a 10 days detour to Africa. It just means that you're relocating your base. And with that, I think we're at the end here.
But I recommend it to people. Make a plan, dream big, and then try crossing some of the things off the list, or maybe just one. Everything counts.
Thanks for sharing that and helping to push our listeners. Well, 2025, I've promised people to be back with an official co-host. It's something I'm looking a lot forward to. These conversations are going to be a lot more like this, where we're week to week or every second week conversing rather than interviewing. And I think that is important because I believe many listeners come here to also listen to my journey. So that's why I decided to do the future with a co-host. But for now, I will have a little break. I will probably wait till spring times, around March, April. It's going to be good to be reflecting a bit on what we have been doing and improving this concept, and then come back with a smashing season two.
Exciting.
How have you been feeling that it's been going for me in podcasting and for us?
I feel like you're a very natural podcaster. And I guess that's one of the ways you naturally drifted into this world, I guess. That you just love talking.
Indeed. There is a lot to talk about, a lot to share. But it happened very fast. It happened in the blink of an eye, where I kind of just turned around, I think, on the day and said, in Ecuador in May, I'm going to do a podcast. I have everything set up to have people help me do it really well. And from there, I mean, LD Studio is now managing and hosting 6 podcasts in 8 months. So it's been a fast growing journey.
But didn't the nomadic parents kind of kickstart this?
Yeah, true. Yeah, actually,
and the nomadic parents was actually one of my brainchilds.
Yeah, you started it. You kicked us into it.
But to be fair, you have really been pushing for podcasts for years.
Well, and with that, we're not going to drag this out anymore. Thank you guys so much for an amazing season 1. I want to thank you personally for staying with us and listening to all the episodes and sending praise, but also sending good feedback on what's going to be improved. I want to thank all the guests. We've had some amazing guests in the show. I'm not going to summarize all of them, but I know you're listening, and I just want to thank you to take the chance and join. It's been some super valuable conversations. Thank you, Ann Sylvia, for giving me that husband favor of joining on the very verge of this first season. And
congratulations on a very successful season 1. I'm excited to see what's going to come next.
Season 2 is going to be stronger, harder, more forceful, and more entertaining. And with that, I just want to wish you listening extremely happy start to the year. I hope that you take a lot of time to sit down, reflect, find peace with yourself at wherever place you are in your life. Take Ann Sylvia's tip, sit down for a while and make a 10-year plan. It's very helpful. It's challenging and it's fun. With that, I want to say goodbye for season 1. It's been a pleasure having you all along.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you the last word. Goodbye, guys.
Thank you for listening to LD Podcast. We are continuously looking for the most talented innovators. No matter your background or expertise, shoot us an email at highfive@ld.studio with your skills and portfolio.